Twitter CEO Dick Costolo is out. Jack Dorsey, the co-founder, chairman, and former CEO, is back in, at least on a temporary basis. Twitter has been just
it's been a mess.
Crazy leadership futility, a lot of revolving doors. Now 3 CEOs are going to be sitting on the board.
Yeah, that'll make it hard to hire a new one, to put it lightly. Perhaps Jack will stay. The problem is that the Twitter, it's complicated because of its past, basically. In most other tech companies, you have a charismatic founder who owns a big chunk of the stock. And then that's able, think of Facebook, for instance, Zuckerberg. He has absolute control. He can do whatever he wants. With Twitter, you had this really complicated situation where Costolo only had 1% of the company, right, basically.
Dorsey
owns more, but then Evan Williams owns even more than him. And another co-founder is on the board. And so it became who's actually running the ship.
I mean, in a way that actually, the ownership structure actually makes the company somewhat vulnerable, and even more vulnerable with a leadership void.
Right, I think there's been a lot of questions about, although it's growing fast, the company revenue grew, I think, nearly doubled last year, I think. But, it's not penetrating, not getting enough revenue, not getting enough money out of users.
Not enough
users, even investors are concerned about that, have been for a while. It's one of the pressures that was on Dick Costolo in the first place. And there's been talk about whether one of the even bigger tech companies, and this is a $20 billion company, or even bigger tech companies, Google, Facebook, Apple, might be interested in buying Twitter and sort of plugging that. The idea would be plugging that into their kind of even bigger infrastructure and making.
Right. Does that make sense, Rob? I mean, we talked a little bit about the idea that they could hire a new CEO, but somebody could come in and buy them.
For Google, for instance, what Google wants to do is they want to map the world's information, know where everything is at any moment. And Twitter is very valuable because it's where a lot of people. It's both up to date because it's got real-time search, and then it's also a lot of information. So Google, for instance, plugging that information in is very useful to Google. That's why they signed an agreement recently to do that. Of course, if Google actually bought Twitter, then it could integrate it even more closely. So, when you do a search on Google, stuff on Twitter pops up, which is very useful.
All right, we will leave it there, and we'll be back with more Breaking Views next week.